Hey guys, great to have you back again. We're here for another half hour of SAAB Talk Live, a new webcast that comes out each Thursday evening, well, almost every Thursday evening at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. We're telling stories about the SAAB community just for you.
hmm And I'm Mark Romicher. On this week, we're going to be talking to Gary Lewis from
Mhm.
Moose Proof Automotive in Whitehall, Tennessee. And he's going to help us figure out what to look for if we're trying to avoid buying a Saab that, well, may have some hidden problems and give us some pitfalls with some repair bills. But before we get to that, we do have a couple of interesting things we want to share with the viewers this week. A couple exciting things here. Tell us all about Lee.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things you mentioned, the hidden problems, there's something hidden about a Saab that I saw online. So I'm hanging out over on Bring a Trailer this week, and I see this thing. So it's a
hmm
1971 Saab, looks handsome enough as it is, but you begin to notice, well, hey, wait, it's stanced a little bit different. Something's going on here. And as your eyes kind of make their way to the back of the car, hey, that's not a standard wheel and tire combo. That's a clue, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, keep looking, and suddenly you get inside this car, and wait a minute, it's got race harnesses. And that's not a standard shifter. Well, here's why. What's that under the hood, Mark?
It's a 502 cubic inch V8 engine. It's mated to a two-speed transmission, and we don't know how much exactly horsepower this thing's putting out, but we've been flying wildly anywhere between 3 and 700 horsepower. But to see a Saab 96 wagon with a V8 in it is absolutely amazing. Um,
Yeah, and
First time I've ever seen this before.
listen to this bad boy. Yeah, that's not a V4. You bet it's a really big two cycle.
Absolutely.
All right, so as we said, this thing's on auction at Bring a Trailer, and right now the asking price is 16,000, and it's got a few days left to go. Um, what a rush to ride that thing, huh? Um, so I don't know. What do you think that's going to bring? Where's it going to close, Mark?
We've been talking about it, but with all the work that was put into that Saab, especially with the engineering, I would imagine 25 to 35,000 without breaking a sweat. But it, we have to find the right person that wants to, pay for that vehicle. But with 4 days left and it's already at $16,000, I think anything's possible.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch that one, won't it? We'll see what happens there. And I just fired up the social media links. So if you guys want to join us on chat,
hmm
you can let us know what you think that car might go for. Saw something else this week I want to bring to your attention before we get to Gary. Our buddy over at Modern Classic Saab, Jordan Pagano, has solved a problem that all of us Classic 900 guys have sooner or later. So this is the
hmm
grill from a Classic 900, and across the top there ought to be three tabs that you use as a mounting point. And I know every car I've owned, those have broken off just like they are on this car. Well, Jordan is now 3D printing a solution. So here are some little tabs that he's 3D printing, and they just kind of slip right into your grill, slip right on there. There they are. Let me show you that. So they kind of just clip right onto the grill, and then bolt them in place. So man, what a
Wow.
nice simple solution. Because right now I've got some sheet steel that I've epoxied into place, and it's
hmm
looks terrible. And these things you'll never even see that little bit of plastic. So Jordan has
hmm
put them up on his website, modernclassicsaab.com. You can order three of these little things for $10, and all credit going out to Jordan. He's done a lot of great stuff for still making new parts for old cars. So it's great to have Modern Classic Saab on the team. Thanks again to Jordan. I wanted to call him out for that. So
hmm
good work, Jordan.
Absolutely.
All right, so we got something else we want to get to before we jump over to Gary Lewis, and that is there's a car event. We're going to give you more info on upcoming Saab events, and this one is happening in Mark's home state.
Absolutely. The Saab Club of North America is having a meet and greet event at the Dominion Speedway. and that's in Northern Virginia. For those of you having an idea, it's going to be on March 19th, and it's going to be starting about 10:30 in the morning. Registration currently is still open, but it is going to be closing very soon. And hopefully, we're going to try and get as many people as we can to make it, because this is going to be our precursor for the SAAB Owners Convention later this year.
Awesome. So that's coming up just this weekend. You can still register if you want to jump over there. And then there's another event coming up soon. This is going to be about a month from now. This happens down in Franklin, Kentucky. This is the SAAB Takeover with a cruise to Mammoth Cave afterwards. The Mint Gaming Hall is where it's going to be held, which I understand is really a casino, but they can't really say it's a casino. Here's kind of a shot of what that event looked like last year. And if you're curious about where Franklin is, it is right here on the border between Kentucky and Tennessee. And what do you know? That's where we're headed next. We're heading to White House, Tennessee to meet SAAB Master Tech Gary Lewis from Moose Proof Automotive. Gary, thanks for joining us.
How's it going, Gary?
Oh, wait, his mic is not turned on. Let me get you there. Sorry, bud. My fault. Operator error. Operator error.
No worries.
Hey,
how's it going, Gary?
How you doing? How you doing tonight?
Doing well.
Good. So we are excited to talk to you, Gary. I know that we talked a little bit before the show started, but we want to really get down to the nuts and bolts of what to look for when trying to buy that used Saab. I know the used Saab market is actually getting quite exciting as of late, and more people are getting interested in Saabs. And honestly, out there could be some pitfalls we're going to avoid, and we're hoping that you can kind of give us some guidance as to what to look for on our all the models that we can possibly get our hands on.
Sure. The biggest thing is, have patience when you're looking for one, depending on what your budget is and how much, time you're wanting to put in it, or you might just want to take it and find a technician like me to service it for you, depending on, what you're going to do with it. So, patience is number one to find the right car.
Mhm.
Most most sellers and Saab enthusiasts, they're really good people. So uh, as far as getting scammed, that's not too often. But you do have to see what a car might need. Uh, like I said, depending on your budget, so it's important.
Let me set the stage here. So at Moose Proof Automotive, again, we said in White House, Tennessee, you're just not far away from the Kentucky border, so northern Tennessee there. You told me you have people who drive in from all over the country to have you do service work, and that's because the reputation is out that you are a factory trained Saab mechanic. And you said you think you're one of the youngest ones still working?
Well, most of my friends, I've had through the years, a lot of them have retired, and we're getting our group's getting smaller and smaller. Of course, in the Northeast, there's way more Saab technicians, but down south, we're far and few between.
Mm-hmm.
And you had mentioned, Gary, that you're actually a technician, not just a mechanic, because according to what you said earlier, you were trained in many different areas and aspects of the vehicle. Can you kind of give our viewers an idea of what kind of services you provide at your shop?
Yes, we do everything bumper to bumper. Like I was saying to you earlier, Mark, the only thing I don't do anymore is put in windshields.
Hmm.
But anything from engine, the whole car, the convertible tops,
Hmm.
leather. I do a lot of headliners. As a Saab technician was always taught, we were taught to do everything. Um, and it's kind of a different deal than some other car lines that you were taught just one part or that's what you did. We
Hmm.
did everything uh, on the car. So yeah, if it says Saab on it, I fix it all. So it's you have to have a lot of patience because uh, you know uh, not everything's your favorite thing to do, but we do take care of everything, and it's a one-stop shop for your Saab.
Well, that's great. Um, catching up on some of the messages here. Jeffrey Shore telling us he was the first to bid, and the second was $10,000. So yeah, we'll see where that 71 goes. And Jeff Mayfield commented earlier. He said he thinks it's going to top out at about 25 grand. So yeah, kind of curious about that. And Brian Strauss is asking Gary, "What's up with your shirt? Tell us about your shirt. That's pretty snazzy, actually. I kind of like it."
It's just my custom work shirt that I had to make. The 9 is obviously for the build number on Saabs. And on the back of it, I have what's on my website, the Moose Proof Automotive logo. So it just, through the years of planning and hopefully opening a shop one day, it was just stuff I had thought about. And just like the name, it's the fun of it. That's what this is for, is fun. Um, if you're not going to have a good time with what you're doing, you need to do something else. This is all I've ever wanted to do, and it's all I've ever done is worked on Saabs, and it really is a dream come true. And and for me, it's more about, I wouldn't say more, but equally about the people as the cars. I have some great friends that come in here, and they're friends; they're not customers. Uh, and it makes your life great, honestly.
Hmm.
You can find Gary at mooseproofautomotive.com. And let's jump in a little bit to what we said is our theme this evening is and how not to
Hmm.
buy a lemon. So when you're out shopping, specific models have some specific issues. Where do you want to start us out? What should we be paying attention for?
Well, as far as a quick check would be like varmint damage. I think we
Hmm.
have a picture of a air
Yep,
filter has a big nest in it,
there it
and that
is.
tells, yeah, that tells you, for one, the person may not have serviced the car properly, or that you need to look other places for chewing from varmints or that kind of thing, because that can get very costly. Uh, a car can be all shiny on the top, but underneath is what really counts. So it's very important to just take a good close look at everything you're fixing to buy.
I'm surprised the number of people who I've seen it happen. They'll buy a car without either crawling on their belly to look up underneath. And with our Saabs, where do we need to be looking underneath for rust?
Well, the main components are, of course, your suspension parts and your belly pans, the floors, because rust is the number one thing that is very, very expensive to repair. Uh, and like I said, everybody that comes in here has a different budget, so we work accordingly. But if, and depending on your budget, when you buy a car, you really need to look at that stuff because it can get very costly very quickly.
Hmm.
For example, on the last Gen 95s, uh, their their frames are made out of a steel that rust. If it gets any kind of salt or anything on it, they rust really bad. And so that's something you really got to pay attention to, because some of that stuff, like I said, it is so expensive to repair. It's almost not worth it. If so, if you're most people are looking for a car they can drive and enjoy. It's
Hmm.
different if you're looking for something to totally restore and have a full budget like that. But your eyes don't lie to you.
Hey, and I'm struggling here to get the comments up on the screen, so I'm going to read you a couple things that have come in. CR says he's got a 2002 9.3 5-speed manual. He let his cousin borrow the car, and she didn't really know how to drive it, so the stick shift now can turn around a complete circle. It's loose and not right. He can't get it into gear anymore. Um, he's had one mechanic look at it, and their diagnosis was the transmission needs replaced. Can you tell anything from what he's saying here about what kind of a mess he's in?
Well, it doesn't need to be a transmission. It could just be the linkage. I've had cars come in here where they've been told they need a transmission. And it's the linkage that's broken. So, but basically find your technician that you like and you can trust, and have them figure it out. But yeah, that could just be a linkage thing.
Let's hope so.
Speaking of hidden problems like rust we mentioned earlier, we were talking a little bit before about possibly some engine issues. Can you tell us how to look for some of those things when we're trying to look at used vehicles?
Yes, on the most part, the early 2009 threes and 95s, those had, sludging problems. Most of them got taken care of, and the ones that are still around are probably okay. But it's very important to look at the oil, um, dipstick, and if it looks very dirty, the metal, and the oil probably hasn't been changed right. uh you know Overall, though, they're pretty strong engines, like the classic 900s and 9000s. Now a 9000, I've seen quite a few head gaskets leak on those models
Hmm.
after time,
Hmm.
just from age. And that's where it comes in. Cold starting a vehicle, make sure you cold start it and let it warm up, and restart it when it's hot, to make sure it goes through all those modes easily. If it doesn't, or the person selling it doesn't want you to do that, then I'd be wary. Like I tell my daughter, if somebody's not willing to show you something, I would get away. And another model, the new 93 four cylinders from '07 on, they had bad intake valves in them where the car would lose compression. In fact, this last week I just did two valve jobs, and that's an item that if somebody has that car already warm, when you go to look at it and you start it and say, I'll take it and drive away, you just cost yourself about $2,500, $3,500. So it's
Mm.
very important.
Ouch. And that's what we're looking at here are your intake valves. So, yeah, you got to pull the head and tear it apart. And that's kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah, it's just, the things, mo- just to be wary of, like I said, your conscience will tell you. Like I said, if it doesn't feel right with the person you're dealing with, and trust yourself, But all in all, like I said, most of the SAAB people I've met through my whole life, they've been great people. So they'll usually tell you what's wrong with it. So it's not that big an issue.
What about this little piece of happy news right here when you see these codes coming up? What's this telling me?
Yeah, that's unfortunately that's a bad trionic for the four cylinders with all those injector codes and charge air code. Um, and it's quite a big issue on the 9.3s. And unfortunately, that's something that they can clear before you drive the car. And I've seen them come back immediately, and I've seen them come back in 6 months. And uh, so that can be a cost to repair, also on the new Gen 9.3s, the four cylinders. So, you know, you can't cover all your bases, but like I
Hmm.
said, if you drive through the warm up cycle from cold, you'll usually be okay. So
It's good
it's,
to know.
yeah.
Clearly, you want to find somebody with a tech too, and have those used cars checked out. Then that seems like the only way you're going to find that out, right?
Well, that's what I was saying before. Whoever your guy is that looks at your cars or works on them,
Hmm.
uh, tell the people, hey, I want to have them look at it. And if they say no, then I'd be wary, because anybody should let you, investigate. It's not a big deal.
One thing I wanted to ask you, Gary, if a person is trying to look at a Saab and they're just not familiar or comfortable enough looking at it themselves, could they bring it to a mechanic and have a mechanic check out the vehicle before they purchase it?
Yes, like my shop, I do it all the time for people before they buy them. Like I said, whatever part of the country you're in, or whoever your technician is, yeah, you should be able to take it and let them check it out. And most places will. So that's and it's worth your extra time to do that because like convertibles, basically
Hmm.
all of them, unless the fabric's been replaced on the new 9.3s, they're all starting to leak, and that can get expensive. Most people don't think about it, but a convertible is a lot more expensive car to own than a hardtop because you have the fabric, you have all the hydraulics. It's just a way more, all they see is when the top is down, maybe, but it's a lot more expensive venture when you're getting into older models and used cars.
Mark, I think you know something about that, don't you? Have you replaced the top on your 9.3?
Thankfully, not yet. But that's not to say I haven't researched how much a new top actually is. And right now, for the newer Gen 9.3s, I'm talking about, 2003, 2004 newer. For my car, it's '08, and I looked up the prices of just the fabric, just the actual tops
Hmm.
themselves, very easily $3,000 to $4,000 from Sweden without breaking a sweat. And that's on the ESAAB Parts website that I looked it up last time. So if you have any tears or any need to replace a top, that can get very costly, just like Gary said. So I fret the day I'm going to have to look forward to replacing the top on my 9.3, but hopefully I'll be able to get a few more years out of it with a little bit of nurturing and some TLC.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, too, you can buy, they do sell car covers that just cover the convertible part,
hmm.
and it
Hmm.
helps you get some more time out of them. Or if you have a garage, there's different ways about it, and
Aerospace
that's along.
303 is my solution. I think
Yeah,
that's a
that's a
great
good product.
great UV filter. That's really what's destroying your top is that ultraviolet exposure, right?
Right,
Hmm.
right. And it all depends what you're doing with the car. Like I have
Hmm.
many customers, I've been working on the same car for over 20 years, and they're obviously keeping the car. So, they're going to put a top on if it needs a top. But if you only going to keep it 5 years, you may not want to invest that kind of money.
Yeah, Todd's telling us a story here and on the Facebook comment about a tough time he's had, never driving another convertible again. Well, I get that, but boy, nothing beats a convertible if you ask me. I both of my Saabs are convertibles, and I just that's the what I prefer. Hey, so let's jump over here and talk about this. What are you showing us here, Gary? What are we looking at?
This is a broken timing chain guide on new Gen 9.3 4-cylinder, and it's very common in these motors. I do a lot of them. Obviously, the correct way is to replace the chain, the guides, the tensioner, but for less expensive, you can just put a new tensioner and guide in, and it's been pretty successful on the ones I've done that they didn't want to spend the extra money. So,
What's a
but
symptom
yeah,
that you've got this in a car that you're taking a look at?
well, you'll hear a little noise on startup, but then you'll have a vibration that'll start because your balance shafts that make the engine smoother, they get off time, and also that on that model, that chain runs your water pump, and actually, when that tensioner's not tight and all that, it can change the speed of that water pump, and that can affect the heating and cooling of the car too.
Hmm.
Most people don't think about that aspect of it, but it does affect it.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Sure, it would. So that's we've kind of beat up on the 9.3 a lot here. Is there is there a reason for that, or is that just that's I think more 9.3s were sold than anything else, weren't they?
Yeah, that's it, and that's the thing, and new technologies, but there's a lot of good about them too. Like in the older models, I put a lot of turbos on over the years, but the new Gen 9.3s, I hardly have ever put a turbo on it. And in Nashville here since '99, I was pretty much the one doing all the warranty work here, and I've only put a handful of those turbos on compared to the older models. So the 9.3 engine, besides the chains and the valves, which yeah, they're big things. They're my customers. a lot of them are getting over 300,000 miles on these engines easily.
Mm, wow. Hey, we had a question here that I wasn't able to get on the screen. What do I need to look for on a 96 9000 Aero?
Well, like I said, the biggest thing I've ever seen on them is the head gaskets after they get to that age, do the cold startup and make sure they're not leaking a little bit because they can go both ways. They can leak a little when they're cold or when they warm up. But other than that, those engines are pretty bulletproof. Obviously, if the chains are worn out, you can hear that noise.
Hmm.
But I have a 92 9000 myself, and they're tanks. They were good models. A lot of people said, well, the key's not in the center, but I like 9000s. They were well built cars. They ride good. I mean, mine has original shocks on it, and it rides like a dream. And so 9000s, there's not a whole lot to look for. Look for your normal stuff, rust and that, but generally they're really good cars, pretty bulletproof.
Okay, there you go. Check cold and restart after hot, says Tom. Cool.
Good stuff. Hey, I did have a question for you, Gary. You had mentioned that looking for things about the 93s and what other models. I know there's a lot of 95 owners out there, and even a lot so with the 97 97 X's out there, and
Hmm.
also the newer gen 95s that were the new platform. So any of these other vehicles that you think we should be looking for problems on these other vehicles?
Well, the biggest thing with the 97Xs is
Hmm.
unfortunately GM controls most of the parts for them, and they pretty much stopped making everything for those except for the mechanical, like engine parts. But
Hmm.
you cannot get hardly anything for those models anymore.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
the late Gen 95s, they're still pretty good. We're still pretty good on parts. There's a few things that you can't get, and of course, trim is issue on some of them. But mechanically, you can get all the parts for those. It's not an issue at all. They shared the same platform as the Cadillac XTS and the Buick LaCrosse, so
Hmm.
all the suspension, everything, you can cross that stuff. The later, I had a '09 95 myself, beautiful car until my wife was in an accident with it, and somebody hit her. She didn't hit it, but it it rammed the engine underneath the car, but she walked away without a scratch.
Oh, wow.
And that's one of the main best features of a Saab, the safety. But those on those Gen 95s, the oil sludging, the engines
Hmm.
head, head gaskets leaking oil. That's what to look for in those models. Other than that, they're really a good car. Each model has their own little quirks, but all in all, the lower end of those engines are bulletproof. They really are. Um,
Yeah,
and
we're talk about quirks. I mean, you don't hear Saabs having, the weird problems like that IMS bearing that Porsche has, or the rod bearing failures that BMW has. I don't think we have
yeah,
Hmm.
catastrophic kind of conditions like that.
no, they don't. And like I said, in the early 2000s, we had some sludge issues, but uh, that was taken care of pretty much when we went to Mobile One, and we went to some different breather crankcase sets and things like that. And we actually, we had a recall where uh, we put in short blocks, in a lot of those cars. So most of them were taken care of, but all in all, they were pretty bulletproof. Besides that,
Hey, you sent me some photos. I just want to go through as we kind of wind things down here, Gary. I want to show some folks some of the work and some of the stuff around your shop. That's a nice Vigan right there.
oh, that's my buddy Chris Griders. He used to be on the board of the SAAB Club, and funny story. I think I sent you a picture, but him and his buddy. There's a Taliaferro exhaust I put on it for him. That was a lot of fun, and man, beautiful work on that exhaust system. Um, and then the seat leather, from what I hear, what I was told, I don't know it's fact, but
Mm-hmm.
I guess him and his buddy got one of the last sets of that blue and black leather for those Vigans. Yeah, it's right there. And I put one set on, and Gas Monkey Garage did the other set.
Oh, is that
So I
right?
thought that was, yeah,
Nice.
I thought that was pretty cool. And I tell you what, that day on the top of those seats, they have handles where you can release the back and fold it forward.
Uh-huh.
And when you get the leather covers, they don't have the holes in it for that. So
Oh.
I spent a whole day praying and marking and just wishing that I didn't mess up this when I put a razor blade to put those handles in. So it was a lot of fun, but yes, that was a lot of pressure that day.
Here we go. Ah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yep,
know what
and
you mean.
there's no going back.
Now, did you put this interior together?
No, now this one is my buddy Paul, the Saab father. This is his 99, and he has a custom shop that does those seats. They're called soft leather. But this car, the reason I put it in there, because this car, it's one of my favorite cars. It's a beautiful car. He calls it cheddar because of the color,
Yeah.
and I just love it. It's
Mm.
like I said, I'm like a kid in a candy store when I get to drive it.
And this, man, this looks like a lot of fun. So you're doing a wiring harness rebuild, I assume, here?
Yeah, that's my buddy Paul. That's this for this SPG right behind him at 85 SPG. In 85 and 6 they had those harnesses. Even Volvo did that. The plastic would melt off or just
Mm-hmm.
deteriorate. So for this car we had to build a whole new engine harness. There's the beginning stages. Got the car running, then we wrapped it, of course. But yeah, it's pretty big adventure to do that. It takes a lot of time. That's where it comes along the lines of you buying one of these classic cars, how what your budget is, because it can go up really really quick. And that right there, I was easy, and we sold that car, but to do that from scratch is not cheap, and
Yeah.
Hmm.
and you have to do it, because if you don't, those cars won't run. It's so yeah, that's another thing to look out for. The best thing I can say is ask your guy, whoever he is. I'm going to look at this car. What should I look for? Get some heads up.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's great guys all over the United States, so with advice and whatnot.
Well, I think that's Mark and I say it all the time. What makes these cars special isn't just the way they were built; it's the people who drive and the community that still supports
Hmm.
them. So, man, I wholeheartedly agree with you on that.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely, definitely.
Hey,
And
before we run, go ahead. No, go ahead, Gary.
if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be doing this. I was going to
Hmm.
retire, and I had several people say, "You got to keep doing this." I'm like, "Okay, we're gonna do this. We'll see what happens."
And
So,
Moose Proof Automotive was born. Before we go, I want to give your daughter a shout out. You said
yep,
you can't
that's my
run the
little
shop
girl.
without her.
Yep, she's washing my buddy Doug's Vigan, and yeah, nobody can do this alone, I tell you. And
Hmm.
she's a great girl, and I appreciate everything she does for me.
Well, I appreciate you dropping by and chatting with us tonight. Tell us a little bit more about Moose Proof Automotive. You find them online at mooseproofautomotive.com in White House, Tennessee. That's right near the Kentucky border. Anything else we need to know before we let you go, Gary?
I think we about covered it. I really appreciate you guys having me on,
Hmm.
and it was a lot of fun. And hopefully, we helped somebody out and answered some questions.
Oh, me too. And, if something comes up, you get a cool project, you see some people with a common problem, bring us up. Love to have you back.
Sure,
Hmm.
sure. And one last note: everybody that go, if they can make it to Virginia for the the rally up there. I'm sure it's a lot of fun. It'll be able to race your car and whatnot from here. And then you can come to our event. It's more laid back. We just kind of relax and enjoy the day. So there's a little bit of something for everybody. And go support these things, because people, take their time to put this stuff on, and it's for fun. That's what it's for you guys. So, and I personally had just put my order in for trophies I'm giving away at the takeover. So we'll have some neat stuff.
Awesome. Couldn't have said it any better myself. And in fact, that's where I was going to close the show, Gary, is with a reminder about Virginia. So you beat me to it. Good for you. You ever thought about being a producer?
Well, no, but I tell you what, I support all my SAAB friends out there because it's a small knit community and they're great people.
Yeah, the factoid for the night. The SAAB Club told me that there are 185,000 SAABs on register in the United States, and that's it. So we're part of a small community. We got to stick together.
Definitely, definitely.
All right, my friend, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Good hanging out with you.
Thanks. It was great. Have a great evening.
All right, we'll see you, Gary.
We'll talk to you soon.
What a nice guy, huh?
Absolutely. Goodness, this was a great show, Lee.
Yeah.
Hopefully, hopefully we're going to keep people coming on and telling people how they're going to be keeping the SAABs on the road. That's really amazing that he just started the shop in 2019 and now he's pushing forward and keeping SAABs on the road, especially doing upholstery and convertible tops. That's hard to find people who still work on those. And I got to admit, have another mechanic available to service cars in that respect, very valuable.
I agree with you completely. All right, guys, we're going to close the program down. Thank you for being here. We will see you next week. Have a good week, Mark.
Hey, you too, Lee. Everyone, have a great week.